welcome to Fairy Breath. I'm really excited to paint this tonight with you. We are going to use 4 colors, or really 3 colors and an accent color to mix all the colors we need. So our 2 main colors are Poetic Plum and Dragon Teal. And you don't have to have these 2 exact colors, but Poetic Plum is a nice deep saturated plum color, and then Dragon Teal is showing up a little blue on camera. Let me see if I can, it's probably more true to this color on camera. But regardless, any teal, any deep teal will work nicely. And then I'm going to mix these 2 colors with slate gray. And what I like about slate gray is kind of a mid-tone gray. And so the 6 colors that I have are going to be the pure plum right out of the bottle. And then I've got plum mixed with this slate gray. And so I've got a kind of a halfway color. It's like half plum, half gray. And then this one is just a little more gray than it is plum. And what I love about mixing gray into my colors is this is lighter than my base color, the plum. And so what happens is it gives me these nice light colors without going kind of baby pastel. And so that's what I'm going to use today. And so this is pure plum right out of the bottle. This was half and half, and this was 2 parts of the gray and 1 part of the plum. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want 3 colors, dark, medium, and light. If you don't have gray, you can mix your own gray with black and white. Just use more white than black. You definitely want, and just to show you, this gray is really right in the middle between pure white and pure black. So it doesn't take a lot of black to change that. So feel free to mix a light gray and then add that in. And then I've done something similar with my teal, except I just have 2 colors. So I have my pure teal out of the bottle, and then I did 1 part teal to 2 parts gray. So those are my main colors. And then the last color I'm going to use mostly as an accent is this Enchanted shimmer. And we're going to use that for some top brush strokes and just to add a little pizzazz to the piece. I also have some of these little rhinestones, and they match this teal color pretty well. So if you've got little pearl rhinestones or sequins or anything like that, you can add those on at the end to embellish. It's not something you have to have, but I think they're fun. So those are the colors that I'm going to use. So here in the center, I've got my template. I just used the Happy Dotting Company 16 arms. And then you also have this additional template here, and this is just going to help us get a scallop. And so I'm going to cut this out right on the lines. You just print it and cut it. And this is going to help you get that scallop design around the edge. There are a lot of different things you could use to get that scallop, but I think this is just a super easy way. And so I've got my 10-inch board here painted black, and what you're going to do is cut this out, and then this fits into a 16 arm template pretty easily. You would just line it up, kind of fits in there just like a slice of pie. You put the tip in the center, line up the lines, and then you just trace outside the line with your marking pencil, and you can also extend your lines with this tool as well. So, and then you just scoot it over, 1 pie section at a time. And see how easy it is to create those little scallops. And so that kind of creates the fun scalloped edge there. You can save this to use again and again, or you can print it out as needed. If you would like to extend your rows, I use my stencil, and the way that my stencil works is these inside measurements. This is 1.5 centimeters. This is 1.5 centimeters, 1.5 centimeters, and then everything beyond that is 2 centimeters. So you can set this right in the middle if you've got a compass, measure out every 2 centimeters. After your stencil, and add a few more rings if you would like to. And so that is the pattern. So again, just to let you know, this distance is 1.5 centimeters for the first ring, 1.5 centimeters for the second ring, 1.5 centimeters to the third ring, and then 2 centimeters to the fourth ring, 2 centimeters to the fifth ring, and 2 centimeters to ring 6. And then we've got the scallop around the edge. So you should have all the templates you need available to download and print out. If you need that, feel free to use a stencil or a ruler and a compass to create your rings and your guidelines. Once you get that all set up, we're ready to go. And of course, my background is black here. All right, for our center dot, we are going to use our Plum. You'll see I numbered my colors, so I have my darkest Plum as Plum 1, and then medium and light. So Plum 1, Plum 2, and Plum 3. So I'm going to use my darkest, my Plum 1 as my center dot, and I'm going to use my 12mm tool. And your center dot is the most important. So sometimes when I'm dotting with a larger dot, I'll start with a smaller to get it nice and centered properly. So for example, I'm plopping a 6mm dot on there, so I know where my center is. Then I'm going to dip in there with my 12mm tool, get my paint nice and centered. And make that center dot there. I really dislike making big dots because sometimes they can have a little air bubble and squash out a little bit. So don't be afraid to fix your center dot. I like mine to be as perfect as possible. Next, I am going to grab a 2mm tool. Now you can either use a dotting tool or you can use a stylus tool. And I'm going to use my Plum number 2, my medium tone, and my 2mm tool, and we're going to create 16 dots. So these go on the lines, and I'm going to start with my north, south, east, and west. Oops. Almost dipped in the wrong color there. So I get those 4 on there, and then I go halfway between those 4. That gives me 8. And then I should have room for 1 dot in between, which brings me to 16. So 16 dots, 1 on each line, all the way around the center. Then I'm going to get my 3mm tool. Again, you can use a stylus or a flat tool, either way. And I'm going to use my lightest Plum, my Plum number 3, and I'm going to add another ring. And these go in the spaces. So we're going to end up with 16. We're going to go all the way around. I like to skip a space and go back and fill those in. I feel like that helps me stay centered. This should bring us right out to that first ring. Next, I'm going to get my 1mm stylus, and we are going to go to the Teal 2, so my lighter teal. I'm going to try to get better about closing these as I work so that they don't become dry. Okay, 1mm teal number 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip once, and I'm going to create 4 dots that go in between these sections. So I'm going to dip once, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I will lift that up closer to the camera. See my 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Let's see if I can do it while I've got this lifted up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so dip once. It's just like walking the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get my teal number 1, my teal right out of the bottle, and my 4mm tool, and we are going to make 16 dots, and these are going on the lines. So it's the darker teal, 4mm, 1 dot on each line. We've got one more ring of these dots to do, and we're going to use 6mm for that. And I'm going to use my teal number 2, and we're going to go in the spaces this time. So these are offset in between the previous ring, or in between the previous ring. And this brings me just beyond my ring number 2 on my stencil. Next, I'm going to grab my 2.5mm stylus, and I am going to use my plum number 2, my medium plum. Oops, got a little hair in there. I'm gonna take that out before it causes problems later. All right. 2.5mm stylus. We are going to dip in the medium plum, and then we're going to do our set of 4 dots. So dip and then 1, 2, 3, 4, just like we did here in this center. So dip once, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do that all the way around. Next up, I'm going to grab my 8mm tool and my Teal 2. If I can get that open. There we go. So 8mm, light teal, and I'm going to make a dot on every other. Ooh, I'm going to make a mess is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a dot on every other line. As soon as I fix this, all right, let me try that again. All right, every other line, 8mm. I'm going to get my 2.5mm stylus. And we are going to create a triple dot crown right next to the dots we just made. So I'm going to dip and dot 3 times. So dip and dot, dip and dot, and then dip and dot in the middle. And that gives me a little crown. So I'm going to do that on all 8 of these with my teal number 1. And this brings me right at my 3rd ring. going to use the same tool, 2.5 millimeters, and we're going to walk the dots on each side. I'm going to do both sides. Typically I just like to start with one side first, and then I'll move to the other. Next, we're going to repeat this step. This time, I'm going to use my 3mm tool and my Teal number 2. And so I'm going to dip and do that triple dot crown. This time I dip once in the middle, and then I can go on either side of that previous crown, kind of surrounding it. Once you have all your crowns, you're going to continue with the same stylus tool, and you are going to walk the dots on each side. So dip and then walk. We're going to do that all the way around. Alright, next we're going to do a little bit of brushwork. For this, I'm going to start with my Plum number 3. Sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit there. And what we're going to do, just to show you where I'm going, is we're going to start up here, and I'm going to bring my brush stroke down to my row 4, ring 4. So down and over to ring 4. So it's going to look kind of like that. So what I'm going to do is get some paint on my brush. I'm going to start up at the top, using more pressure up at the top, lightening pressure as I come down. And then I'm going to repeat this all the way around. For the next step, we're going to do the same thing but in reverse. So this time I am going to start down here at the tip of the petal, and I am going to take my brush stroke upward in that shape. So I'm going to use my plum number 1, my dark plum. So I'm going to dip once and then bring my brush stroke upward, and I'm going to do that on both sides. Dip again, and then bring it up. Next, I'm going to open my teal number 1. I'm going to get my 4mm tool, and in these little tiny spaces, I'm going to create a dot. And then I'm going to get my stylus, and I'm going to pull it down into that little area there and create just a little teardrop or a little pin. Next, I'm going to get my 8mm tool, and I'm going to use the same color, my teal number 1, and we're going to put a dot on every other line in the same spaces we made our little teardrops. So I'm going to put this on ring number 4. Once I have all 8 dots on there, I'm going to get my 2.5mm tool, and I'm going to walk the dots around each of those. I'm sorry, 3mm, 3mm tool, my 3mm stylus. I'm going to use my teal number 2, my lighter teal, and I am going to do my center dot with my 3, and then I'm going to walk the sides with my 2.5. So 3mm centers, and then we walk the dots around each side. For the next step, we're going to use our 4mm tool, and I'm going to leave a little bit of space. So I put these dots on ring number 4, kind of centered on this ring right here. I'm going to put these dots just inside ring number 5. So we're going to kind of build this pattern back just a little bit, but I'm going to use my teal number 1, 4mm, and wherever I've got this petal, this teal petal, I'm going to place 1 dot just inside my ring number 5. Then, once I have that, I'm going to continue with the same color, my teal number 1. I'm going to use a 3mm tool. It can be a tool, a rod tool, or a stylus. And I'm going to place one dot on each side of that. So it's almost like a triple dot crown. We're not gonna walk the dots on the side. We're gonna do something a little different. But 3 millimeters and 2 dots in each space. Next, we're going to go back to our plums, and we are going to use our stylus tool to make some swoops on the sides. So first, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use for the inside swoop my 2.5 millimeters, and where I want this to go, I'm going to leave a little space between where I start the swoop and this dot here. So it's going to look a little bit like this. I'm going to have another swoop in there that comes up just a little farther. And then I'm going to have a short swoop on the side. So it's going to look something like that when we get finished. So first swoop, 2.5 millimeters stylus, and I'm going to use my plum number 1, my dark plum. So like I said, I'm not going to start right up against that dot. And I'm going to pull a swoop on both sides. And of course, I'm going to do that all the way around. Once you do all those swoops with your plum number 1, we're going to move to plum number 2. Now remember, this one I'm going to make a little longer, okay? So I'm going to extend it. That means I may have to pull a little more from the top there. I actually didn't even get it that first time around. There we go. you go all the way around with those. And then we're gonna do our last one, which is gonna be a little bit shorter. So I'll show you what it looks like when I do all three. And this third one, I'm using 3mm and my plum number 3. So there's all three, the dark, medium, and light. All right, next what we're gonna do is we're gonna take each of these 8 dots and we're gonna turn them into kind of a flower here. So what you're gonna wanna do is use your plum number 1 and your 3mm tool, and we're gonna create a dot at north, south, east, and west around our 6mm center. And then in between each of those, we place a dot. So we end up with 8. And we're going to do that to all of those dots. right, next we are going to use our Plum number 3 and our 4mm tool. And on the other side of ring number 5, I'm going to add a 4mm dot. So we're still working on the ray that we just made that little flower. Plum number 3, 4mm. Then we're going to walk the dots. So we're going to treat this flower just like it's a giant dot. And I'm going to walk the dots to the right and then walk the dots to the left. And so it's going to look something like that. To the right, to the left. I'm going to use my 3mm tool and my Plum number 3. And I'm just going to start walking on each side. I can fit 5 dots comfortably, so I'm going to try to stick with that. We are going to get our brush back out and we're going to do some brush strokes. So this time we're going to continue working around this petal with the flower in the center, and I'm going to start my brush stroke up here and I'm going to pull it down. It's going to end right here at ring 6. So again, start up here, end at ring 6. Okay, so that's where we're going. I am going to use my Plum number 2. And it's going to look something a little bit like that. So we're going to do that all the way around. Now I don't tend to sketch out my brush strokes each and every time, but if that's something that helps you, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You can absolutely use your chalk or your marking pencil. going to keep working with that brush, and I'm going to use Plum number 1. And this time I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, but I'm going to go from the ring down to the point. And we're going to continue the brushwork on that petal with Plum number 1. So I'm going to make this one a little bit shorter. It is absolutely okay if your brush strokes are a little bit different from mine. What's most important is that if you do it differently, you keep it similar as you go around. You want it to match as best you can. The eye will be a little forgiving. They don't have to be perfect. There's a couple I'm not real happy with. I can absolutely go back and fix those. Don't ever be afraid to touch up what you've done. Just because you made it by doing a swoopy brush stroke doesn't mean you have to fix it that way or leave it, because there's no rules. If you don't like it, fix it. All right, so I've added those in. We are going to continue to use our Plum number 1, and I'm going to get out my 10mm tool, and we are going to add a dot. I'm going to place it in between these two lines, between ring 5 and ring 6, but closer, slightly closer to ring 5. See how it's just a little off center? And I'm going to go all the way around. 8 of these, they're going in between these petals we created. I'm going to continue with that 10mm tool and my Plum number 1, and I'm going to repeat that. This time I'm going to go right next to ring 7 next to that petal, and so there's going to be 8 of these. So altogether we have 16 10mm dots, 1 on each line, and they just vary with the placement. 1 in, 1 out. So once we have all 16 of those dots, we are going to move to our Plum number 3, which is our lightest plum. I'm going to get my 3mm stylus, and we're going to make a triple dot crown on each of these. So dip and dot, and then dip and dot in the center. And we're going to do that for every one of these. we're going to use the same color. We're going to walk the dots on each side. I'm going to switch to my 2.5mm tool. So I'm starting just a little smaller than those top dots. And we are going to walk the dots on each side. Alright, for the next step, I've kind of planned out here what I want to do to fill some of this space, and we are going to go back to teal. I'm going to use both colors and my brush. This could be done with a brush or with a stylus and pulling swooshes. Either way is fine. I'm going to do mine with a brush, and I'm going to dip into my teal number 1, my darker teal. I am going to pull 2 brush strokes inward, and I'm going to do this every other dot, the ones that are more inward. So I'm going to create these V shapes all the way around. And it's important as we're working on this, you don't want to touch or go beyond your little scallop here on the edge. I need some room so that my dot fits in the scallop. So stay close to this petal up here. So I'm going to do dark, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do light, which is a little bit longer. So I did dark, then I did light, then I'm going to go back to my teal number 1, and I'm going to do another dark. This one I'm going to start right about ring number 7, and I'm just going to pull that to the same place as my other swipes here. On that one. I need to pay better attention to what I'm doing. Alright, fix this one up a little bit. Once you have all your brush strokes, I am going to get my 4mm tool. I'm going to use my Plum number 2, and I'm going to add a dot just right in the center where those meet. So those are 8 dots. Right in the center of each of those sections. Alright, for the next step, we're going to go to our Plum number 1, and we're going to do a lot of dots. We're going to use our 4mm tool, and this is where we're going to do our scallops. So there's going to be a lot of dots. I am going to try to kind of just center this right on this line as I work, and I measured out a few times, and 16 dots fit just perfectly within here. Now I'm not going to focus too much on the number of dots. As far as I'm working, I'm just going to go according to the spacing. But I'm just going to start on my line and follow it all the way around this entire circle. Right, we're in the home stretch with the base of this design. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my teal number 1, and we are going to use our 6mm tool. And wherever this scallop dips in, we're going to put one 6mm dot. So there ends up being 8 of those, 8 6mm dots. And that was the darker teal, teal number 1. And then I'm going to get my 3mm stylus, and I'm going to create a swipe on each side of that with my plum number 1. So 3mm stylus, plum number 1, and I'm going to swipe and then swipe. We're going to do that all the way around. So dip, swipe, dip, swipe. Right, now that finishes the base of this design. So what I'm going to do is let this dry most of the center is already dry. A lot of this stuff on the edge is getting pretty close to dry, so it doesn't need that long. I would say give it maybe 20 to 30 minutes and it'll be safe. It should be safe to go because we've been working on this for a while. You may be asking, what about the Decoart Enchanted? What about those little rhinestones? We're going to be using those in the next step. The Decoart Enchanted, we're going to do a lot on the top of this, and then I'm going to put these on in the next step. So go ahead and let it dry. I'm going to pause the video and restart here in about 20 minutes. All right, I'm back. My piece is mostly dry and I'm ready to work on some of the top dots and embellishments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get an 8mm tool and I'm going to dip into this Enchanted, and we're going to do an Enchanted dot right in the center of our piece. So this was 8mm. Now this is going to show up really white and bright on camera. As it dries, it's not going to be that way. So 8mm center with our Enchanted. Then what I'm going to do, so I'm going to not do the rhinestones for this step. I'm going to well, no, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do it just so I can show you where they're going. So I'm going to place rhinestones on this ring right here. If you choose not to use the rhinestones, you can place a top dot in whatever color you want. So don't feel like you have to do exactly as I'm doing. So I'm just going to get some glue. Usually what I do is just squirt out some glue, and I'll use my stylus to get that glue where it needs to go. I'm just using white glue or tacky glue. If you want to use super glue, you can use that. I typically work about 4 at a time. I'm going to place one of these in every dot there. This can be a time-consuming process, but I find it really rewarding. I really like to work with rhinestones, embellishments of all kinds, sequins. Get out a little tray here because I'm having trouble because of my nails. All right, this will work so much better. There we go. Yes, so much easier. I've got all of those around that ring. Super cute. I'm also going to add one rhinestone in the center of each of those 8 petals. Going heavy with the rhinestones on this one, guys. I have a lot of them, and you know, with a piece called Fairy Breath, it needs to have a little something extra, I feel like. A little extra glitz and glam. So we've got that ring of rhinestones, and then I've got 8 more. Now, next I'm going to get a brush, and I really want kind of a teeny tiny brush, or a brush that you can just get a really fine tip. So I'm going to get a nice small brush here. I'm going to use my Enchanted paint, and up here I've got these petals that are going this way and petals that are going this way. You want to choose one set of those. You can either do the light ones or the dark ones. I think for this I'm going to do the light ones, and I'm just adding a swoosh of this Enchanted right on top. And again, I know it's probably hard to see on camera, but it's just going to add some sheen on top of there because it's going to dry clear and sparkly. So I'm going to do that all the way around. And what this is going to do, because the Enchanted is not going to be super obvious, is that it's going to kind of just, when you look at it at an angle, give it just a little bit of that flicker. And I love that. Next, I'm going to get my 1.5mm stylus, and still working with the Enchanted. We've got little teardrops here. I'm going to pull just a little swipe right down the center of that. All the way around, so there's 8 of those. Then in this next set of teal dots in this ring, I'm going to put more rhinestones. see how that Enchanted in these petals has dried, and so it just gives it that little bit of shine when you look at it at an angle. It's not super obvious. Even in that center dot, you can see it's still wet in the middle, kind of on the edges of that dot that's dried. You almost don't see it unless, you know, you're moving it. So it turns out really, really pretty. Next, I am going to add some Enchanted to these brush strokes here. For these, I am going to do both the light and the dark. I don't know if you can hear this on the mic, but my dog is snoring behind me. He is snoring so loud. Next, I'm going to walk the dots with my Enchanted, and I'm going to fill a little bit of this space in here. So I'm going to start the dot next to this part with the dark plum petal right here, and I'm going to take my 3mm tool and I'm just going to walk the dot to the side in both directions. And it's not going to be super obvious because when it dries, it's not going to be white. So I'm just going to start here. Oops. I'm going to do 6 in each direction. Maybe not with that big clump though. This palette is pretty, even when it's white. White would be a pretty color to play with as well. Now on the edges here, I've got these swipes. I'm going to use my brushes and I'm going to add a little Enchanted in those swipes. Again with my teeny tiny brush. then the last thing I'm going to do is on these outside dots, I'm going to put a rhinestone there. So 8 rhinestones, and then I am finished with this design. My friends, this is my fairy breath design. I hope you love making it, and I cannot wait to see how yours turns out. As I mention all the time, top dots are a personal choice, so feel free to go bonkers. Add as many or as few top dots as you want, but I absolutely love this. I cannot wait to share it with you, and I hope that you will share your finished piece with me in the share space or in our Facebook group. And thank you so much for participating, and I'll see you next time, everyone.